Lovely. So today I'm going to have a nice 5D living conversation, re-kick it, reboot, reprogram, and we'll speak a little bit more about that in a second for 2024. Because what I'm feeling very much in myself and the collective of souls that I work with is that it's been a bumpy start. There's a lot of chaos energy, a lot of things are being brought up, a lot of negative entity things happening, things that can feel like they're way out of our control, but
Mm.
actually they're not. They're
Yeah.
not. And that is what I want to chat to you about today, especially when it comes to reprogramming, because not only are you my sister, but I've worked with you for quite a long time, on and off on different programs, confidence mindset, super being, coaching, all sorts of work we've done together, very much about reprogramming the mind, because I feel quite strongly, especially as quite an advanced spiritual soul, which I am. Most people know me. I will be talking souls, spirits, energies, entities, dark agenda. That is kind of my world, and exposing both the light and dark side of spirituality. I feel part of that realm is an attack on the mind, the body, and the soul. And it's not attack on the spirit, because no one can ever attack your spirit. Your spirit is always whole and healed. But whether you access that spirit is a whole nother realm. And so the benefit that I've got from coming to you is that as much as my spiritual connection was strong in this realm, in this everyday realm, sometimes my mind wouldn't be strong, or my body was hurting from pain, and actually realizing that reprogramming, retraining, rewiring my mind has been a really important practice, and one I'm going to continue throughout 2024. So would you like to speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah. And I think what you said just before then, I was like, oh yes, it's the actually we do have the power, because I think we can feel quite hopeless. We can feel like we are getting attacked. We can feel like we don't have control in this world. And our thoughts and our emotions, we can feel like we really take those on board, and that we can't do anything about them. And all the work that I've done with you, and all the work that I do with the people my clients and the people that I work with, is about taking that power back, reclaiming. So you said about, is that rewiring, is that reprogramming? What I firmly believe is we do need to do that, just to come back to our true selves. That actually we're born perfect, with the perfect programming, with the perfect personalities. And there's this external influence, however obvious that may be, or it may be very kind of like subliminal, all of these, it could be influences from our parents, the way that we're brought up, certain events, but it can be influences from, things that we're not even very conscious of, stuff coming through in social media, stuff coming through in the news, stuff coming through in advertising. There is so much information that sometimes we don't, not even sometimes, most of the time, we don't even know it's going in. It is reprogramming us, and it is shifting us from a place of people feeling empowered to actually taking us to a place where people feel like they should be behaving a certain way, they should be acting a certain way. And it's so far away from our true selves and what feels comfortable. But that's why we can start to see all of this, all of these issues out there in society, like anxiety just going through the roof, depression, people feeling lost, people feeling completely powerless, going to big, pharmaceuticals and organizations to help me, It's like, I'm broken, people feeling like they're broken. And that is a key thing that people they come to me and say, am I the most broken person, Lisa, that you've worked with? And I know that gets me every time. Am I totally, I've got children that,
Yeah.
am I broken? And I say, oh, you're so powerful. And often the people that I work with are the gifted ones. They are so gifted. And I often feel like the my connections, the people that I do tend to work with, are the ones that are going to be these massive empowerers, are going to make such a difference in the world. And they come and they say, am I the most broken person? And I think, and I know intuitively they're the most powerful people. They've got absolute superpowers, super gifts. And it's just tapping back into that to know how powerful you are, to go back internally. So when you said at the beginning, it was like, oh, that lack of control. It's going back internally, not being reliant on everything else, and actually saying, no, I'm not listening to that. I don't consent to that programming. I don't consent to being that person. This is me with my true gifts, and I'm going to let that shine.
Yeah, so much, so much in that. I wanted to say that a few things: that knowledge is power. I
Yeah,
very much make people very aware of the dark agenda that's playing out spiritually, what magic is and how it harms. Because, like you say, if you don't know that your free will has been abused, you can't say you do not consent to something because you don't
yeah,
realize it.
yeah,
I think that's the most important. And then to say that I am often blown away. And some people just say to me, oh, well, it's easy for you because you're spiritual. And I'm like, you don't know where I started. I wasn't always like this. You do,
yeah,
totally not like this. And secondly, I get the joy of soul reading, which means that I can see somebody's higher self, their full perspective. So what happens is they'll teach me a practice. I'll have no clue about it. And I'll watch them and go, my God, the advanced souls that are on the earth at this time. It's really, really exciting, really rewarding, because I can see that and go, wow. It's like, I remember with our session when I was working with you, and then it was like changing your name to super being, because it was like, that's who you are. This name needs to be this big, super being.
yeah,
And then to say that the soul, I feel, is one of the most precious things that we have. And so to have ourselves traumatized, to have our memories forgotten, we forget where we've come from or where we've been, and through any kind of trauma or upset, a bit of our soul leaves the body. It's safer, it goes into the spiritual realm, it leaves. And for me, the most interesting thing is, where is our soul? How can we reclaim our soul? How can we know our soul's story to know what we're capable of?
mm,
And when you said something about, it reminded me of who has the right. And I always say to people, no one has the right to take your soul memory. I don't buy into it that we should come into this paradigm and forget where we've come from. Little children don't. They
mm,
remember where they've come from. They say about choices that they've made. They remember that they picked their parents,
mm,
but somehow they are reprogrammed or taught often. Not saying everybody does this at all. I mean, I absolutely adore some of the practices you do with the nieces that are not about that paradigm, but to forget that we've lived before, forget what our soul is. But even if you don't want to look at on a big, huge spiritual perspective, energy can never go out.
yeah,
So
yeah,
the memories, the things, and I think that's a biggest part of the programming, that we forget who we are, where we've been for, what's important to us, and who we are at that still point. And you actually said something gorgeous just before we came on, about not trying to put anything on. It's about coming back to who we are and our brilliance.
yeah, yeah. Because I think often we can like think of it's this, we've got to work really hard to develop ourselves to become this ideal version of ourselves. And it's not about putting all these layers on. It's not about being, well, this person seems to have it all together. So if I'm more like them, so I need to just make myself more like them. No, it's not. Everybody is unique. Everyone's got their own superpowers, their own super gifts. And it's about taking all of that back, or, unraveling all the programming, from everywhere else, going back to how you were when you were born, as babies. We didn't come into this world and have to justify our existence for our parents to feed us, or like justify ourselves to be loved or whatever. We were just perfect, born as we were. And then things can help, shift that tends to just limit us, put us in a box. We keep being programmed by all of this stuff to say, And the thing that when you were talking that just came through to me was playing small, you know, and it isn't. This is about playing big, you know. This is about, you know, your soul story, you know, just, you know, living your proper true purpose is about playing big. And yet all that programming, I feel, is a power play, and it's to make us small, you know. So it's like, you don't have the power, you don't have the power, this is how you should be, this is how we're kind of like programming you to be. And actually, when we sit there and go, I'm not consenting to that, I'm living big, once you start to do that, that's scary for whoever else, because, you know, you are living your power, you're taking the power back. That's like one of my, you know, one of my strap lines, isn't it? It's like reclaim. It's reclaim your power. And we can do that. We can do that so easily by just getting rid of all that programming, getting rid of the limiting beliefs, you know, pulling our soul fragments back. And it's becoming whole again, actually, which is, whether it's mind, body, soul, is becoming connected and whole. It's that feeling of whole. Because when you feel whole, you don't feel lost, you don't feel anxious, you don't feel, you're like, well, you know, when you feel like, this is my place in the world and this is where I shine. When you know that, the whole world shifts for you, doesn't it? It becomes a magical place of ease and balance and just enjoyment.
Yeah, it kind of brought up a few things for me about conversations I've had with you, and I was just like, of, you know, acting's not really working out, and you were like, well, what do you really want to do? And I was like, oh no, it's silly. You're like, just say it. And I'd be like, I want to write my own play. And back then, I was like, that's too big. It felt like that visibility that you can do anything. I think we have these blockers that it's like, that's for somebody
Yeah,
else. I'm not a
yeah,
playwright. It took me
yeah,
ages to say, oh, I am a playwright. And beyond that,
yeah,
I'm a really good one. You know, like that took me a really long while. But now I
yeah,
geek out about my plays because no one else writes a Cheryl play.
yeah,
No one else does. And that's why I love them, because I was starved for those voices in the industry. And
yeah.
then it's like the same when I came to you and I was like, I'm really lonely in the industry. I'm really alone. And you got me to reframe it. It was like, but what you do doesn't exist yet. That's because you're a trailblazer. And those things have
Build
always,
your own tribe. Build
yeah,
your own
yeah, and
tribe as a
that's what
leader.
I do, you know. It's like that's why it's so important to me, because it doesn't exist. So I kind of want to say to people, wherever you are, you know, that is so important, not trying to fit into a mold of what really exists already, and finding who you truly are, what you really want. And even if it's not being done yet, then you're here to make that change. And
Yeah,
if it is being done, then to try and find those people to keep you inspired and to keep you going.
yeah,
Then the other thing that I wanted to say, because I, my purpose, my strap line was to bring soul back to storytelling, because I just thought that's all I want to hear about, the journey of the soul, what it's like to live with awareness of your soul, how your soul's been harmed, and to spread awareness that, you know, do we even know that our soul's been harmed and how to retrieve it? And that's why it's some of the most important practices for me, that sometimes it is about healing and bringing your light back in, because it's
mm,
your soul. So what you can
yeah,
really reclaim, as well as your sovereign mind and your body, is your soul. It's yours for the taking.
yeah. But it's awareness, isn't it? It's the
Yeah.
awareness. Because what's the percentage of people that are just going around not really aware of any of this, and just, you know, self-medicating, medicating? It's just like seeing all the outcomes of this, you know, how they're feeling, lost, anxious, depressed, whatever, but not being aware of what's the reason for all of this. You know, what is the reason for this? Most people don't have that awareness to go, right, I need to work on bringing my soul back. I need to work on my connectedness. I need to work on my mindset. Most people don't have that awareness. And actually, when you start to get that awareness, that's a pretty scary thing, because you're like, you know, it's like it kind of hits you and you go, oh my goodness, I've got all of this work to do. You know, it's kind of like, this is where I was going along, just quite happily with my head in the sand, thank you. And now
Yeah.
you're telling me there's all of this.
Yeah.
And so that I think people need to be very kind to themselves when they get to there, you know, because maybe people are listening to this or have worked with us, they're going to that place of self-awareness, and it is kind of, you know, it's a lot. So that is where you need that support, and you need your tribe, and you need to be speaking to other people that are going through it, because yeah, it can be a lot, can't it?
Yeah. And I'm really glad you say that, because it's speaking into the fact that it isn't easy and that I get up. I remember I said in one of my groups when I was doing a lesson plan, and then Spirit was like, no lesson plan for today. And I'd spent all day working on something. I said, no, chuck it away. You don't need it. And I was like, well, you could have told me earlier. And also, what now? But then I was like, hang on, I'm teaching a course about channel your soul story. My soul's just said you don't need the plan. Am I going to ignore it? No. I turned up, didn't do that. And I said to the group just before we started, oh, by the way, just before we came online, I was like, oh my God, I've got nothing. I don't feel safe. I don't know what I'm doing. And then I launched in. And the feedback was, oh my God, you always look like you know what you're doing. That's such a relief that you.
Yeah.
So to speak into the fact that it is work, and to speak into the fact that, I really don't like it when people appear to be perfect and have things all sorted. I constantly get overwhelmed, and I speak to you and
Yeah.
I constantly,
And me and you,
yeah,
and other people and the tribe.
yeah,
This is a constant practice. This is what I said to people. It's like, I have huge wobbles. This happens, that happens. But when you have that awareness and you start building up, kind of like, well, do you know what? This helped me before, this helped me. And you start to know what to do. You can be like, okay, I'm having a wobble, but I know what to do. And I'm on a journey to get there. We'll never be these, Zen masters will never be this, like, but it is about a journey. And some people come to me and say, oh, I thought I was going to have one hypnotherapy session with you and you're just going to fix everything. And it's like, I'm not going to
not
fix
fixing
you.
you.
I'm not fixing you. I'm empowering you to be able to go on this journey for yourself.
Yeah.
And so they're like, yeah, but this is just not the only issue, and then I need that sorted. It's like, that's never the only issue. There's a whole unraveling there. But yeah, it's a practice. It is like work that you have to do on yourself.
And so I want to just close it up so that people have a bit of a gift to go with one bit of advice or something. And I'd like you to give something that you've taken from me.
Mm.
And I'm going to give you something that I've taken from you, because we work similarly and spinning around in different realms, because you work very much with the quantum consciousness energy as well as the mind, and I work very much with the soul and the spirit and the dark agenda exposure, and theater and storytelling and all sorts. So basically mine that I want to share that other people can do or just bring into their awareness. I know that you have a free, I don't know what it's called, so maybe you can help me out with what it's called. Like your magical life or something. It's a hypnotherapy about creating that dream
Oh,
space.
the one I got in the digital shop,
Yes.
Manifest Your Dreams.
Manifest your dreams. There you go. And I think what your work, and I recommend people to check that out. It's a free thing. Is that we get tired brains and we stop putting energy into our dreams. We spend too
Mhm.
much time with the worries, and we don't realize that we really are creative beings. And I know that I'm creative. I'm a writer, I'm an actor, but I'm creating that reality.
Mhm.
And the nuggets that you put together for me was about because I know I was like, oh, affirmations, yeah, they don't work, because I didn't feel them.
Yeah,
So it was that kinesthetic awareness that you can reprobe your mind, but we're not just talking about mind, we're talking about matching the feeling in the
the
mind.
emotions. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's been a really useful tool I continue to remind and take from your work. And I would recommend other people to start reprogramming their feelings with their mind.
Yeah, just to say, because when we can sometimes say those positive affirmations, I am strong, I whatever, you just don't believe it. It's like the words are coming out, but I don't believe it. You need
Yeah,
to believe it. So then it's about taking yourself into that place where you've felt that emotion before. So when if you just for example, if you did want to feel strong, courageous, think about those times when you felt that before, really experience that in your body, and then say them, because there's a congruence, that matches up with what you're saying and what you're feeling. When that matches up, that's the power. So it's not that just when you say something, you don't feel it inside, that can cause, like, you can feel it, can't you? It's like, oh, there's like an uneasiness here. So it's matching those emotions with what you're saying.
And I
Yeah,
want to just add that thought, because it's happened to me today when I was doing that practice, is that if you find that the feeling is blocked or there's something off with the feeling, then that self-knowledge is also great. It's not about overriding and going, oh, that's not valid. It's like, oh, I realize why I'm blocked there. And oh, okay, maybe I need to go deeper into that. And
yeah.
that's just as valuable. Whereas if,
Equally powerful.
yeah,
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. But to always approach it with curiosity rather than with a lack of compassion. Because sometimes
yeah,
you're like, why am I thinking that? Why am I blocked? Why am I, oh, here's me, failure at, being able to do this. It's kind of, rather than being like that, just be going like, oh, that's interesting that I've had that trigger, because then you're being kind to yourself and not pushing yourself down into those places of guilt, blame, shame, which we can very easily go into.
oh,
So
goodness. And would you like to share a practice that you've got from me, something spiritual or
yeah, oh, I know straight away.
yeah,
So I just, you said before, it was like, just chuck out the plan. I've been someone who, with the psychology degree, with all the training, with I'm very much like, I've got my structures, I've got my models, I've got my, so it's like, this is how this coaching technique works, or this is how this mindset works, this is how you can run like a script of like hypnosis. And it was very much like, what about your true powers, chucking them out the window and channeling everything, So that's the biggest thing. And what a difference that has made when I'm like, do you know what? It isn't about this is the way you're supposed to do it all. Actually, I'm just going to do it with me, with the sort of like you're going to go quantum with all of this. I'm going to just channel it. So now it's, ahead of sessions, rather than just that, oh, okay, this technique and this would help with someone and this. Now I'm like, let me just channel what they need.
yeah,
Let me just tap into their higher self, channel what they need. And then it is, it is absolutely the other side of people like, do you know what? It's so weird that you said that. That's exactly what I was thinking. I didn't say when I was on it. Well, yeah.
and I want to share that I did a spiritual session for you, and I was like, okay, you were like, oh, maybe it'd be good to know some techniques and some things that I can use, and so I just channeled what your soul would find most helpful, and we did that in an hour, and you were like, oh, lying with your own channeling practices, and I was like, that took me 7 years to master. And that's why I kind of want to say that, like, don't look at, and you even said in the session, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, but there was a feeling of she's the spiritual one.
Yeah.
That's what Cheryl does, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
actually, within an hour, you were flying, because it's actually, that's not true. You know,
Yes. Yeah.
while, I will say that I'm fairly on a different spectrum to most because of the way that I've gone through
You're
it.
up there. I'm somewhere on the spectrum. You're up there.
Well,
Woo.
because you called me a trailblazer, and in that meant I have to say the unspeakable, which was one
Yeah.
of my things. So I was like, right, I can't hide in that. But that it was just like, you had this skill set that was just there, ready to go.
And
Um,
I've kind of said I've come out of the spiritual closet only about 6 months ago. Before it was like, I can't put this stuff on LinkedIn. I need to be, I've been this like corporate leader for like 25 years. I've just been in these leadership roles. I can't go out there and say, oh, well, actually, where, this is how I can really help people as well, because I have all this, spiritual side as well. But it is all, I've always said the science and the spiritual, bring them together is the most powerful thing, so it's, and well, for me,
yeah,
that's me, that's my authentic self, bringing the both sides. But I hidden one side for a very long time. I kind of thought I wasn't as strong at that, and then actually I realized I was all the time. And I think that's what we often don't realize, that our gifts were just sort of coming through the whole time. They're always there, but we kind of like block them ourselves.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I've done that, that realizing that channeling was my superpower, because my world doesn't make sense like other people do. So if I stop trying to fit the 3D mold and go full out 5D,
yeah.
then everything's okay.
And that really is your superpower. And often I'm like, why are you're so you're so rubbish at some of this like logistical stuff, because your superpower is so good that the universe kind of said, we're going to make you so rubbish to make sure you concentrate on this, and yet you still concentrate
Yeah,
sometimes
sometimes
on this
I'm
stuff.
still trying to do all this admin
Don't do
stuff.
it, you're so
My brain's
amazing
like,
at this.
"Mm." I
Yeah.
know. So yeah, I want people to take away, like, you know, be you, know that
Yeah,
it's sometimes work to get to that core you, to get in access to your mind and your soul. But you know, what I will say is, you know, if only for one reason, there's a agenda out there that doesn't want you connected with your soul. So the most powerful thing you can do is take it back. It's yours, it's your birthright. So take it back.
yeah,
We might be doing more around this work because we both feel very passionate about reprogramming your mind and retrieving your soul, um,
yes.
which
It goes so well together, doesn't it?
yeah,
Is that whole holistic
coming.
approach? Yeah.
I will drop your that meditation, your contacts and stuff here, as well as other stuff I've got coming up. But most of all, yeah, yeah, reclaim your soul and reprogram your mind is
Be
the most
true to
important
yourself.
thing. Yeah, be true to yourself. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you for chatting today.
Thank you.